Do you want to start with Brian? It's probably about
Yeah,
time.
I'll start. Just letting a couple more in. Okay, so presenters. Darren's our team lead for the food space, Darren Neary. He's been with Techman, I think it's 10 years, isn't it, Darren, this year?
It is, yeah.
The majority of those working with food and beverage companies. Early in his career, he was actually a software developer. He won't thank me for mentioning that. He now fulfills a more commercial role here, so has, I suppose, the valuable sort of perspective of both a sensitivity to industry challenges and an understanding of how technology can benefit customers. So that's Darren. Darren, can you move the slide for me?
Yeah. You didn't mention yourself then, Brian.
Oh, well, I'm Brian Cartwright. I'm in the marketing side. Basically, I get involved in all aspects of the marketing and very much sort of work closely with Darren. So the event today. Oh, thank you, Des. We're going to start with the next slide.
Yep.
What we'll cover: who are technology management? A little about us. Why choose us? What gives us credibility as a partner? What is Dynamics Food? How we, I suppose, leverage the Business Central platform and accommodate challenges specific to the food industry. So we're dealing with those today.
I think you're going to be fending all the questions, aren't you, Brian? So any questions that come up, I won't be able to see them while I'm doing the presentation and showing you
that's
product.
Yes.
So.
Any questions, comments, as we just said, as people were joining, please just let us interject. You know, it's a fairly informal format, as we've suggested. So if anyone wants to stop, anyone has any questions about us or anything Darren's saying, please jump in. So about us, known colloquially as Techman. We've been trading for, I think, 32 years now. Over 150 employees. I think 180 now with the graduate intake over the summer. We've been involved with Navision, which was the old name for Business Central since the 1990s, and that sort of relationship even predated Microsoft's ownership of the product. So that's certainly one of the USPs we hold as a Microsoft partner. And we cover the whole of the UK as iterated in that thematic manner. Inside of Techman, our structure, a little bit about our structure. I'll let you guys read through that. But I suppose to pick out some sort of salient points, we're privately owned, meaning we're flexible, autonomous with reference to our decision making, and I suppose particularly important is, you know, making decisions that are right for our customers. We're not held to rigid group edicts, but most of all with us, I think a culture of personalisation, of building strong and enduring relationships with customers. And we hope that's sort of evidenced by some of the retention figures that we have. We think we're unique compared to Dynamics partners, traditionally specialising in the, I suppose, distribution and production sectors. And we've been in the food and beverage space since 2009. We're a provider also of Dynamics CRM, the relationship management tool, but Business Central is the only ERP product that we offer. And in the green, you've got people, 26 people, I think, permanently in support, dedicated to that role daily. So I think that, again, differentiates us from a lot of our other Microsoft Dynamics resellers.
Oh, sorry, Brian. That was me.
Just one down, thanks, Daz. Findings from Microsoft Market Research. So an interesting slide here. Details a sort of evolving cohorts of decision makers. So you've got the sort of archetypal baby boomers who perhaps traditionally, that's a generalisation, obviously, traditionally saw IT as a cost and overhead, but we find they're being sort of usurped by the millennials, Gen Y, Gen X generations. And with that sort of advancing demographic, you've got that sort of group of people saturating technology, and tech has shaped and informed the majority of their interactions, and they've got a fluency and comfort when using it, and demands similar in their professional lives and of their service providers. So next slide, please, Tess. Digital technology is a deflationary force in an inflationary economy. So that's the head of Microsoft, Satya Nadella quote. Very much sort of part of MS's do more with less initiative. Supposed to sort of pass the quote. It's the theme is all about accelerating digital capabilities across every function in an organisation, and the underlying concept being if a worker can produce more with less, that will boost supply and reduce prices. And that's evidenced in this graphic. So you've got the cloud, the higher performance, the mobility, the cost savings, the collaboration, the right data for the right member of staff, unification of data, one version of the truth, as we always say, accurate, reliable data, which is vital for successful outcomes. There's the Microsoft stack running on the Azure platform.
Can I say a little bit about this one, Brian?
Yeah,
I know
of course, yes, yeah.
And this is quite an important part of the whole Business Central proposition, really, is because it's part of the Microsoft stack. What that basically means is you can leverage all the other elements that Microsoft produce, such as Power BI for reporting, Power Automate for linking things together, Power Pages to display data to your customers, Power Apps to give your guys access to data on mobile devices. So all of these kind of things are all part of what I'm going to show you today, underlying everything that it does there. I'm only going to show the Business Central part of it. I will touch on the Office integration, Excel integration, Word integration, stuff like that, but it's all built on here. I'll try and show you a couple of the AI bits that are built into the system as well, if we get a chance. But the new version that's coming in October, which we're going to launch our customer day in October, has got even more of the AI. And an AI is a big word at the moment. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But again, it is getting better and more integrated as we go through. Sorry, Brian, I just wanted to say that because Microsoft invest over $1 billion a year in this product. Yeah. And that's when you can see where that investment is coming from. So it's not like they're investing a few $100,000 or $1 million here. It's $1 billion every year in this product. So there's a lot of money goes into it. And then the last slide here is just an example of some of our customers. Again, there's all sorts of customers in our portfolio. I will touch on those a little bit later as you go through. If there's something relevant, I think I should talk to you. So over to me now, Brian, fully.
Yeah.
Am I okay to flick? Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for the intro. Let me just call up my screens here. So what I'm going to show you now is more of a hands-on introduction to Business Central. Talking about how Business Central addresses things in the manufacturing workspace. Let's start off by basically showing you how it all integrates into Office. So everyone has, well, not everyone, come across quite a few customers that don't have Office, they have Google or things. But if you do have Office, your Office, which is the latest version of Office here, has all these different apps here that all talk to each other in some form or other now. So Business Central is just another icon within your Office space. I mean, if I click on here, I can see the main Office apps I use even, but Business Central is integrated into there. You've also got integrations to the likes of Outlook. So Outlook is a common one here. So emails coming in from customers, suppliers, Business Central becomes an integrated part. So if I pop up my Business Central window here, I can have Business Central linked in there. So every time a customer or a supplier comes in, I can see key information about that customer or supplier without even leaving Outlook. So again, click on their sales orders, go into that sales order. I can actually pop out the screen if I want it to be a bit bigger. So again, the journey starts with Outlook and it's all integrated into there. Okay, we can even, if we want to, use some of the earlier AI that comes with the system and say, actually, I want to create a new sales order based upon this email from a customer. Now I know it's chess sets, but my e-commerce platform has got like games on there. So I've just clicked create a sales order from that. The AI will read the email and say, I think the customer wants one of these. So it's 200 chess sets. So if I click that's the one I want, I can click OK, and the customer, the AI now will go and create me a sales order for that particular product, and I can pop it out again, nice and big, to make it a little bit easier to read and stuff like that. So I can see it now say 200 chest sets for that customer. I can then post it. So that could be a quote, it could be a credit note, it could be an invoice and stuff like that. So that's where the early AI is starting to be used within the system. So it's not just Outlook that is integrated into. The end result of all the data you put into Business Central should be Power BI. So Power BI is a visualization tool, reporting tool, so you can visualize the data and report on it within your system. So again, it's very flexible in what you can do within the product. So I've got one there. Oh, I'm going to just call up another one. I'm going to call up my on-premise Power BI as well, because that's quite a nice example. But you can see on screen here, I've got a couple of different interactions. If I click on any one of these cells, all the other cells will draw themselves based upon that particular cell. It's probably more visual if I go into one that's linked to my website, so my Google Analytics one. So this is my Google Analytics. It's very pretty. You can draw it however you want to. But if I click on a cell here to say at 1 p.m, what's going on my website there, and it will look at what products people are looking at, where they're going on the website, and all the data is then driven by that one particular cell I have there within the system. So it's all interactive reports, and the one I just called up on my screen there, if I show you a 3D visualization inside Power BI. So in this case, I've linked Power BI to my warehouse locations and my warehouse maps, because I do want to cover a little bit of warehouse management today. So what this is going to do now, it's going to draw my warehouse for me, visualize it for me, hopefully, if it catches up with me. And then I can actually visualize 3D what my warehouse is like, and I can click on any item in my warehouse and the system will drill in and show me where that is in my warehouse. Again, not necessarily an ideal way of doing it, but it's just to give you an idea of the kind of visualizations you can do with the likes of Power BI linking to the different data sources now. So it's a nice, powerful way of visualizing your data. And again, the other parts of the system I'm going to show you in a second, where you can link to Excel and Word documents. So typically Excel is used for on-screen reporting, filtering data, data migration, data manipulation, global data changes, things like that. Word documents are all the outputs that come out of your Business Central system now. Orders, invoices, credit notes, pick notes, wherever it comes out of the system can be done as a Word document, which means you can quickly and easily change it yourself. You can have different templates for different customers with different look and feels and things like that. So they're all integrated now more and more to just make it a simpler solution to use and more intuitive to use, because most people know how to use Word, Excel and those kind of things these days. Business Central itself is a role-tailored environment. What that basically means is the role that you have within your business will determine what you can do and see on your screen. So the role is one aspect of it, and the security privileges are another. So if I don't have access to a certain area of the system, I won't be able to see it on my screen, I won't be able to interact with it, I won't be able to do anything with it. So the security is a layer on top of the role to say what you can and what you can't do with it. So at the moment I'm in as a business manager role, so I've got things on my dashboard like ongoing sales, purchases, payments, I've got some approvals, some intercompany transactions, I've got some integration to Shopify website just for showing people what's going on, credit control activities. I can see I've got a lot of overdue accounts there, a couple of reports on screen, and I've also got some Power BI embedded in the bottom of my screen as well if I wanted to see those Power BI databases or data reports inside there. So again, it's up to you what you have on your screen. It's completely customizable, and the way I customize that is I could click on there and go personalize, and then the system will allow you to take things and say, actually, oops, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna remove the activities. I'm gonna hide that one there. I'm going to hide my company hub, whoops, and then I'm going to click done, and the screen will redraw itself based upon what my new personalization is. And the personalization is group level or individual level. So we can set it up so all the groups look exactly the same, i.e. all your admin people or your production people or wherever it may be, or you can give them the ability to change things a little bit more themselves. For example, at the moment, I can see I have 69 sales orders, but I may actually change that to be 69 sales orders for Tesco. And the next icon could be 62 orders for Sainsbury's, etc. So it's up to you how personalized you can create these queues and things like that. Business Central itself also runs on pretty much any device these days. So if I go into design mode, I can see at the moment, this is what the system is looking like on a Windows browser. It could be an Apple Mac browser if you wanted to. This is what it looks like on a tablet. So typically we deploy the solution on tablets for quality users that go around the factory doing different tests and things like that. And this is what it looks like on a mobile phone. So again, mobile phone, it's not the biggest screen area there, but you can do everything I'm going to show you today can be done on a mobile phone if you wanted to, as long as you have internet access. Incidentally, the warehouse management element that we'll show you later will run on any Android phone. It doesn't run on Apple phones at this moment. It will be soon, but at the moment it doesn't run on Apple phones. But typically you have an Android device of some kind for running those. Typically you'll have the Honeywell CK65 or something like that. So going back to my main screen again, I can design the screens to be different for each kind of device I'm using to just give me a different view of data in different kind of device mediums. Also, we have inside of here, if I go into my settings, I can change my role that I'm within the business to go down to, say, a warehouse worker who doesn't need as much information on screen as a system manager or something like that. So when I log in now, my warehouse manager role center will all be about what picks have I got to do today, what putaways I've got to do today, what stock's coming in today. So outbound, inbound, and internal. Again, I can further customize it to remove these report box or inboxes to make it as simple as possible for the users. Because one thing you don't want to do is scare your users into thinking this is a really complicated system. Business Central is a standard looking Microsoft system that is actually quite easy to learn. So what we don't want to do is scare people by having lots and lots of information on screen, which they're never going to use. So we cut the screens right down to show them just what's relevant for them. I'm just going to go back to my, oops, don't want to personalize. I'm just going to go back to my main role center, which is a business manager, I think it was. There we go, I'll go that one. Incidentally, those are all the other different out-the-box roles that you have. I mean, we've got things for the quality people. We have people for if you do disassembly of animals or anything like that. We've got service engineers and all sorts. So I'm just going to stick with the business manager for the time being. On this webinar as well, I'm not going to be able to show you absolutely everything about Business Central. My aim today is to give you a bit of an idea of what its capabilities are. If there's anything there that triggers something that you want to explore further, then you can let us know. But hopefully today you'll get a good idea of whether it's going to be the right kind of solution for you to be able to explore a little bit more for your individual business. Okay, a couple of things that people always used to say to me is, oh, what about if we want something bespoke for the way we work? Oh, I don't want to go through a project again and have to re-implement the system in 3 years' time because we've got a new version because we customized it. And yes, that is the way systems like Business Central and other kind of products used to work in the olden days. But now, every piece of customization you want to do to the system is exposed as an app. So it's just like your Android phone or your iPhone. If you want to do a game on there, or if you want to have Outlook on your phone, you download an app for it. So it's exactly the same now with this. So all we do is we go to Microsoft App Store, which is exposed in Business Central by the extension marketplace. And we can download an app, or we can search for an app for pretty much doing anything. So if I wanted to do disassembly, if I can even spell this, I can't even spell. I'll go for PayPal. I know how to spell that one. PayPal. I can go in there, I can do a search, and there's lots of different things here for integrating to the likes of PayPal and bank feeds and all that kind of stuff. And if I wanted to install it, all I have to do is click Get It Now, click OK, and then install the app. So the way the apps work, they work on top of the core Business Central system itself, so to extend the functionality without invalidating any kind of upgrade process. So the system will still upgrade automatically every time you get a new version from Microsoft, which is every month for a minor release and every 6 months for a major release. So the system will automatically upgrade itself. So it's just like Office, it always stays on the latest version, and you can extend the functionality by having all these different apps there. So all I have to do now is decide where I want to install it. I'm not going to do that just yet because I think I've already got PayPal on my machine. I can have a quick look at what apps I've got on my machine. So if I look at my extension management, I can see what apps I have on my machine at present. So there's a big long list there. So you can see all the ones from Microsoft because they're branded there. So Business Central itself is an app. And then you've got things like Making Tax Digital, which is also an app. We've got compliance for UK things there. We've got all sorts of other stuff. Intrastat Core, Intrastat GB, all these different apps that extend the functionality of what is Microsoft Core Business Central app and make it relevant for the UK. So there's one of these that does every country in Europe. So you've got German extensions, French extensions, etc. like that. But that's how Microsoft extends the core functionality of Business Central now. And you can also see on top of here, we have a lot of other functionality that we use. So I've got Clever Dynamics, which is actually Techman's brand of apps. So I've got some clever attributes. I've got landed costs. I've got document delivery, which we'll talk about some of these as we go through. So what we do with Business Central at Technology Management is take the core Business Central system and then we extend the functionality around the outside to add in all the functionality that makes it more relevant for food companies. So there's a few different companies on here. So we've got some potato growers and distributors on there. So we have like a grading process or byproducts. So you can say, I'm putting all these potatoes through, I'm going to wash them, and I want the different grades to pop out, and I want to know how much has gone in and how much of each individual grades come out. So we've got a little app that does that for them. We've got things that do unders and over receipts. We've got disassembly capabilities. We've got catch weight capabilities. We've got advanced warehouse management, all these kind of things that just make it a little bit more flexible and relevant for the food industry. And one of those other ones is quality. So there's a big quality app on top of there as well to keep it all in one place if you want to go away from paper. So that's a very quick overview of how it all pins together. On top of all of this, you then have the two different kinds of screens you have in Business Central. So if I go and have a look at one of these queues here, so I'm going to look at my sales orders. All screens in Business Central work very similarly. Okay, so we have, I'm just going to close that in a moment. We have like an Excel type view of your list. So I can set freeze panes, I can do column sorts, I can do filters. So all your data is available to you really easy. And then on the right hand side of the screen, we have fact boxes. So basically context sensitive information about the item you're on. So as I'm going down between different customers on my screen here, we can see different bits of information is becoming available on the right hand side. So most screens will have a fact box on screen. If you want to, you can actually remove those and get rid of them and just go into full screen mode if they're not relevant for the area of the system you're on. You can also click on the filters. So the filters are, yeah?
Sorry to interrupt. I've got a couple of questions from Simon Venables. How do I restrict the ability to view all these apps so they don't confuse users?
Security privileges, yeah.
Only admins should be able to see them and then release the ones we want to relevant users. Is there an... Okay, so... That's
your security roles and permissions. So again, I wasn't going to cover this, but we do have a lot about security within the system and roles. So basically what you do, you set up a role or security permissions of what they can and what they can't see. Because what you don't want to do is have any Tom, Dick and Harry on your system going and installing apps that are then going to basically... not add any value or mess up your system. So again, you lock that down so no one can do anything. You can even lock down, so the next button I'm going to press here, I'm going to maybe export this to Excel. Well, what you don't want to do is have every man within the business being able to export your customer list into Excel that they can then send to someone. So you can again lock these kind of things down to who can do what. So in our internal system, I can't export to Excel, but Brian can export to Excel. So different kind of roles will allow different people to do different things, all done by security and roles and privileges.
Yeah, there was one question from Simon just to close out. Is there an AI add-in that will pick up a PDF invoice on an email in Outlook and key it in for review?
Yes. It's called Continue. It's not AI. It's been around for a long time. So we use Continue at the moment, and it basically does OCR, and it can in OCR sales orders, purchase orders, invoices, goods delivered notes and stuff like that, and it can read them and create purchase invoices to match the purchase orders and start a three-way match and all that kind of stuff and do authorizations. It's getting better. I think they're starting to use AI in the new version, but they've just used OCR in the past. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question, Simon.
Okay, so I was just going to say then, so on every screen, we have the ability to filter the data to give us what we want on screen. So in the olden days, we used to have lots of reports for viewing the data. So you'd have a report to view the data in one way and another report to view the data in another way. These days, within Business Central, we tend to use the on-screen filters to give us the data we want to report on. So for example, here, I have access here to all the data within my current data set. So you can see here, I've got lots of fields I can create a filter by. And then if I wanted to, I can save these filters. So I can say here, this is Darren 1 filter, which is open orders on my system. I've got another one called Strange filter, which has got a list of invoiced orders and quotes. I've got ready to ship items. I've got open sales orders, ship not invoiced. So again, I'm filtering all my data on screen to show me the fields that I want to. And then when I have that field, I can chuck it into Excel and open in Excel and do a report in Excel if I wanted to, for example. Or if this was like my items, my item master, I'll show you that in a second, I can actually click on that button there and do edit in Excel. My computer's decided to go very slow with Excel at the moment, so I'm not sure why it's going really slow. There you go, and chuck the data into Excel. Again, when he opens the data in Excel, he also uses the same security permissions that you have within Business Central, because it's all linked to your Microsoft Office account these days, to give you an idea. Also, when I click on any of the data here, so if I go into one of these sales orders, when you drill into a sales order, you have the second type of screen that's available to you within Business Central, which is your edit screen. So in this particular screen here, we have the item itself, so the core information, and I can click on a button here to show more information for the occasions when I want to input extra information, like a promise date, maybe the salesperson that's actually done that one or anything like that. And I can click show less to actually restrict, oops, if I actually click it, I can show less to restrict that data there. The tabs in Business Central go down the screen rather than across the screen like they do in old systems or old traditional systems when I used to write them years ago. And what that basically means is you can actually have the tabs there and have information propagated onto the tab header, so you can see occasional information. So when is my payment terms? There's 21 days. But if you do need to go into them, you can open up that tab and actually change those payment terms and then close the tab again up. So basically it gives you more screen furniture to do different things with. Again, on the right hand side of the screen, I have my fact boxes to show information about this item, so I can see key information about the items. As I'm going down between the items, it will show my stock levels, inventory, all these kind of things. Okay, so those are the second type of screen. I'm going to go around over now to the key information that's relevant for today. So I'm going to go and look at some of my items on my system. So again, when I look at my items, I can view my items as little icons. I can view my items as lists. So again, if you want to view them as lists, or you can view them as big tall icons if you want. It's down to personal preference what you want to view individual items as. So it's up to your personal preference. I like to have little icons there within my system. I still have my filters on the left hand side of the screen to view them. And when I go into any particular item, so if I go into my chicken pakora here, there's lots of information about the item here to actually determine how it's worked within the system. So the item master is probably the most important area of the system. So for example, I have information about the stock levels, inventory as it's called in American terminology. We can't get away from the Americanism, sorry. We do have to work with some of their terminology. So stock is inventory, suppliers are vendors. That's probably about as bad as it gets. We can see here on any of these, I can see how much items are on purchase order, how many on production order, how many are on component lines. Again, if I wanted to, I can click show less to actually minimize the information to only stuff that's relevant for me. I can also go then and see my costing and posting information. So Business Central has multiple costing methods depending on how you do things. So I may have FIFO, I may have standard cost, average cost, whatever you may want to do. We can also see my pricing information. So there's a very sophisticated pricing matrix within Business Central. We very rarely come across anything which we can't handle out the box, and we can actually create a whole pricing engine on top if we wanted to. But you have customer specific pricing, price groups for customers, price discounts, net pricing, campaign based pricing, promotion pricing, all that kind of things all within the system. And the pricing can go by date. It can go by quantity, it can go by price breaks, and that then links quite well to rebates as well. So we created a rebate add-on, so you can have rebates which are percentage-based rebates, you can have stepped rebates, you can have rebates on top of each other. So they're going to get a marketing rebate of 1% and they get a volume rebate based upon how much volume they do. We have all those kind of things that we've extended the system for as well. Incidentally, I didn't see anyone on this that does catch weight, but we can also do catch weight. So if we wanted to, we can say this is a catch weight item. So if people are working with cheese or meats or anything like that, and then this item can be switched into catch weight mode, where you can have a catch weight on sales, a catch weight on purchase, so the system knows that you have dual units of measure. So you can buy in joints of beef, but when the actual joints come in, you'll pay for the weight of the joints that come in. So you'll have 4 joints of beef, an average weight of 2 kilos per joint, but this time you've had 9.2 kilos, so you'll pay 9.2, but you'll receive 4 in, and the same as when you ship them. So we have a lot of our customers that actually ship these out of their warehouses, and customer will order a joint of beef, and when they ship it, it'll be 2.2 kilograms, so they charge them 2.2 kilograms. So that's catch weight, which is quite useful. You can have different sales units of measure to purchase units of measure, and you can have different units of measure at different locations. So for example, if you had a production facility, you may actually have anything on your production going through in kilograms or grams even, but when you're actually buying stuff, you buy it in UCBs, or you buy it in big massive bags in tons or something like that. It all depends on how you want to do it. So the system just has to know what the relationship between the different units of measure is, and you can set those up, and you can set those up at different locations. So if you've got a storage location where you keep stuff in pallets versus a production facility where you keep things in bags. We also then have replenishment. So when the system needs some more of this particular item, how does it replenish it? And this particular instance, I've set it to be production order. So there's 3 different ways you have a replenishing stock within Business Central. You have a purchase order, go out and buy some more stuff. An assembly order, which is very basic production and uses what's called the Essentials license within Business Central, which is the cheaper license. And that basically allows you to have a BOM and then a cost for labour or overhead per assembly item. So you have a number of hours that you can do there. And then you have full production, which I'm going to show you today. So you have a production BOM. You can have maybe alternative BOMs. You can have alternative routes and different routes of manufacture that go through different facilities within the factory. So it's a lot more complicated and more granular in the costing it gives you out of the system. We're talking about those in just a second. But when we do have those, we then have our production BOM information there. We have the manufacturing policy that's relevant, and we have the different routing. I'll talk about those in just a second, but the final bits we're going to talk about then is the planning characteristics. So when you do need some more, that's how you get more, but this is telling the system how you work out what you need. So there's different kind of reorder policies. So for example, you may have a customer, Aldi, that every time they order, you don't keep any stock, you just make it specifically for them. So we call that a back-to-back. The order comes in, you'll make a production order to fulfill it. Items where you have stock of them, you may have on a lot-for-lot basis. So an order comes in for 50, you've got 100 in stock, you don't need to do anything. An order comes in for 50, you've got 25 in stock. The system will say, well, go and make 25 more, because that's how much I'm deficit. It will then look at all the modifiers that you have there to say, actually, I never make less than 200. So even if I only need 1, it's going to suggest a production order for 200. So if you've got like a vat that can only make 50 kilograms of product at a time, you're not going to make anything less than that. So the system will always go and say, well, make a whole vat. Now, these are suggestions the system will do, and I'll show you a little bit more about these later, but you can override any one of these if you want to. It's just a suggestion, because ultimately, if you're going to make a product and you're never going to make it again, you're not going to want to make 200 kilos of something. So you will actually make the minimum batch that you can at that particular time. Hopefully I'm making sense there. We've got lots of other modifiers here, lot accumulation periods, we got dampener periods. So all these do is basically decide what the system's going to do by date. So like a dampener period, an accumulation period will be used, like lot accumulation period will say, look at 1 week's worth of orders, group them all together into a week's worth of orders and put them through together. And a dampener period will basically do a similar thing on what customers' orders are changing and modifying. So if a customer keeps changing their mind every 2 minutes, and we're going to say 2 days, if the date's less than 2 days, I'm not going to worry about it. And if the quantity is less than 100, I'm not going to worry about what the customer's changing their orders to and stuff like that. Because otherwise you'll get lots of noise within the system where the system says, oh, increase that by 10, change it by 2, and it just gets a little bit noisy. So we use these kind of things to just filter out the noise within the system. Last probably bit there for you.
Sorry to interrupt again. I've got a question from Joel. Joel says, can you hide fields on these pages so it only shows the fields for the users that we want to use?
Yep, absolutely. Again, it's part of the personalization. So instead of setting it personalized for an individual, you'll actually go into personalized for group mode, and then we just hide that or click and show it on the more or wherever it won't do. Okay. Any other questions? Nope.
Nothing currently.
Okay, cool. Last bit there I'm going to talk about before we go out, we've got lot tracking. So obviously in the food industry, we need to have lot tracking for everything that touches food. The system is BRC compliant, so you can do your BRC tests within about 20 to 30 seconds when you're using Business Central. So all the raw materials that come in can be batch tracked or lot tracked. You can have expiry dates on all the materials that come in. When the system is using those items, you say which lot you're using. So lot tracking goes all the way through from raw materials in to finished goods to items that are shipped to customers. So if you do have a recall or a trace, you can do that within a few seconds within the system because all the information's there. We can also go to serial level, again, not relevant for the food industry, but if you were like pharmaceuticals and something like that, then we can actually go to serial level tracking as well in the system. Other modifications we can do for the system as well is expiry date. So standard Business Central doesn't work with MRP with expiry date, so it doesn't have the concept of expiry dates as MRP. So what we've done, we've extended the system. So if you have a production order that the MRP is going to suggest, but your raw materials are going to be expired before you can use them, the system will suggest you buy new raw materials. So it's all about the dates and when they expire inside the system. Incidentally, our lot management and expiry date management allows us to extend the life of raw materials. So if you can send stuff off to the lab or have them washed extra to give them extra life, then you can extend the lot expiry of a particular batch of raw materials. And we can do sub-lotting. So if you get a pallet of goods that come in and the bottom layer is wet, so you can take everything apart from the bottom, you can actually create a sublet, send those back to the supplier, sub-lotting, send those back to the supplier, and the rest can go into stock throughout the system. Okay, going back to the bombs. Let's go and have a look at a bomb. So a couple of interesting things. I'm going to go related bills of material. I'm going to show you cost share first because this is quite an interesting thing. So if I like to show you cost share, as we build up our bill of material and our way of making it, our route of manufacture or the recipe and the ingredients, the system will calculate the cost of these raw materials at each stage of that. So the top half here are all my bill of material items. And I just happen to have a sub-assembly here for getting some salt. And then the bottom areas here, the work centres, these are my labour and overhead costs going into the system. So you'll see here that it accumulates all these throughout the system to come up with a final entry. And again, I make these figures fictitious because you'd never want to sell chicken pakora at £9,204 per kilo. But it gives you an idea of how the costs roll up into a finished good. So whenever you're doing even NPD or you're doing your production there, the system will know exactly how much they have cost to make that particular production order because you're not tracking it back to the original purchase order. You're tracking how much time's gone in to get your actual costs out of the system. So the way I like to say this is that when you're planning on a cost, you've got a planned cost, an estimated cost for production. Then as you actually run the production order a few times, you're capturing the actual costs, and that will give you a variance to your planned cost that you can then say, actually, after 3 runs of running it, let's rework out what our planned cost is to get us a little bit more accurate on how much it's costing to actually make these items. And again, it's up to you which bits of the detail on here you use. So some of our companies, our customers will just have one work center that says make it, whereas other companies will have each part of the process that will actually capture how many people are on that line, how much time those people are on that line, what scrap is going into there, what rework am I having to do, and all these kind of things can be costed into it if you want to, but equally it can be very simple. Let's have a look at the actual structure itself. So again, I can go and have a look at the bomb structure from here. It just gives you a bit of a breakdown of how this chicken pakora is made. So you can see I have the top item here, and then I have a sub-assembly. Again, it's up to you how you make your product. So if you're making things like ready meals, you may have lots of sub-assemblies that go in and make the mixes of the raw ingredients or the spice bags that you put into them, things like that, that then go into the top level. So you may make those in bulk and then just use them as and when they're needed. Or equally, if you're doing like a grading process for potatoes or something like that, you may have just a pre-process, which is actually taking the bags of or the boxes of potatoes, washing them, going through a grading process, and then another sub one that then takes those graded potatoes and then bags them or chips them or peels them or wherever you want to do with them. So again, it's up to you how you have your production plans going through. But again, you can see here, my bill of material here says that I need so much of this chicken, so much is flour, so much is corn flour, and some salt and some ginger stuff to make this pakora, to make the actual finished one. So let's go and have a look at a bomb. So I'm going to go in and have a look at this particular bomb, show the details. So again, items here, so individual items are going down, the quantities I want, and again, I can have different units of measure, because what you don't want to be doing is working with kilograms for bits where you only need 0.3 grams, because you'll be working with lots of decimal places that can confuse people. What I can also do is have this item here has got 4% scrap. So when I'm just trimming the chicken, I always say I lose about 4%. So that will be costed into the bill of material. So when I'm ordering 100 kilos of this, we'll actually order 104 kilos, because it knows generally I have about 4% wastage in there. So this is at the individual component level that I get scrap here. If I do it at the top level, one back up, it's at the actual finished goods level. So maybe every bag of pakora that goes down the line, 3 or 4 of them don't pass the test for whether they're sealed or the metal detector test or whatever it may be that you have. We can have different versions of this. So if we're going through some sort of NPD process, and I'm not really talking about the NPD add-ons today, but you can have different versions where you've done different iterations of how much salt's going to go into the product or how much chili, and the system will then have a version matrix to show you. I don't think I've got any versions here, but we'll have a version matrix there to show you how that product has evolved over the different versions, what salt's gone in, when you changed that, who changed it, all that kind of thing there. And we also then have the ability inside that bomb to say, well, where else is this raw material used? So if you have a supplier that's no longer going to be able to supply with this chili powder, you can say, well, where is that used? And all the different ingredients where that's used, we'll be able to see it in one place, and you can do a mass change of supplier for that particular material. So that's
Dad, sorry, just a quick one. Sorry to interrupt. Another question from Simon. If you've got the detailed routings materials data in the system, is there an ability to output variance analysis in the system based on actual output? And can this link to workforce planning to get both labour and materials?
Yeah, so the system will be able to report on it. What we say that Business Central isn't, it isn't a rostering system. So we can't create rosters who's going to be on what shift and what plans at this point in time, but we can tell you, based upon the route and the production plan that you put forward, how many people you need in the different areas for each production order. It's then down to you to decide who's going to be on what shift and things like that. I'll show you that when I show you the MES screens in just a second, which are capturing the actuals coming out of the system. Okay. One other thing I did want to show you, we've got another few things that we can do here. We have the ability to have comments at each individual level of the production bomb. I haven't got anything in here. So if you have ways of making it, we have customers where they attach the, my brain's gone, but basically the plan of how the product's got to be made, how much time you spend, 4 minutes doing this, 6 minutes doing this. So we can have it at the ingredients level, or we can have it at the next level, which is the routing level. We can also capture those toolings and things like that. So if I show you that, probably more relevant. So this is the routing. So this is how we make it. So this is the labour and machine runtime element of the production. So the previous bit was the material cost. This is the run cost, how you're making it cost. So you can different works areas here. So some people may have production lines that are set up in parallel, and some people may have it all in serial. So the production line's constantly running, so you set it all up, so it's all consuming all this cost all at the same time as it's a production line, rather than individual bits of kit linking together in different areas of the machine. So again, we can cope with both of those. We can see here that we have a setup time per each individual production area in this case. So your setup time is per production order and your run time is per unit of measure. So we see here to mix the ingredients, it takes us 10 minutes to mix the ingredients because we're mixing a batch at a time. And it doesn't matter how much we've got in that batch, it's always going to take 10 minutes to make a batch of those. But the cutting takes 1 minute to cut up a kilo of meat. Again, just different ways of doing it. You can do however is relevant for what you're making. We can also see here we've got wait time. So if you have to wait for someone to cook or cool. Move time, not relevant for many food factories, but occasionally if you've got a big factory, you may want to move it from one unit to another for it to be there. Fixed scrap quantity. So this is the scrap time and overhead, not material. Okay, so this is how much labor you normally lose or how much machine time you normally lose. Concurrent capacities is if you've got multiple machines or multiple people that can do the same thing, you can then have multiple concurrent activities. So you've got 4 people on a packing line, that means you can do 4 bits of packing at a time. And things like send ahead quantity says, well, we're not going to wait for a whole day's worth of production before we send it to the next operation. We're going to get 100 kilos, pass it on, 100 kilos, pass it on, or a pallet of stuff and pass it to the next process. The last bits here are all part of our MES screen. So our manufacturing execution system, which I'll show you in a second, which just shows me how many operators this process here takes and how many people I need for the setup. Again, it's all about the costing element because you can have different costs for different kind of grades of people going into that. So all of this is accumulating cost. Now, what's underneath this, there's a lot of stuff underneath here, which we won't have time to go into today, but to give you an example of one, let's just show you one of them. The cutting department here has a capacity, which I'm measuring in minutes. It's working to 1 shift. So again, you build your shift pattern into the system, which will give you your capability or your capacity. And then when you're actually building your route to manufacture, if it takes 10 minutes of capacity to make that, it will consume 10 minutes when a production order is put on to cut that chicken up. So the system will know how many jobs, how many production orders you can get through, and it will go through to your capacity planning, whether you're over capacity and stuff like that. And when I show you the visual production planning in just a second, you'll be able to say, well, how is this working? Do I need to put an extra overtime shift on? Have I got extra work there? Can I move my people around because I don't need anything on that particular area today? So there's lots of extra stuff we can do around this to actually make it a little bit more easy to use. And again, just talking about the kind of things we can add on. If we see here, we can see particular tooling. So if we need a particular cookie cutter or a particular bit of a kit, we can actually link bits of tooling there, particular people, quality measures. We can have the works instructions on there. We can drag and drop them in there. So all these kind of things can be linked to this particular route of manufacture. And we can also have alternative routes of manufacture if we plug in the Clever MES and the VAP system. So what that means is basically you say, well, normally this job runs down this bit of kit, but if that bit of kit's down, it can also run down this bit of kit, but it's a little bit slower and costs a little bit more. So the system will always go down the default one, but you can switch to an alternative way of making it just in case a bit of kit breaks down or it's being serviced at any particular point. Okay, any questions, Brian? That's quite a complex bit.
Nothing yet.
Okay, so I'm just going to create a sales order on the system just to show you how it works. So what the sales order is going to do for me, it's going to create capacity. So if I just create a brand new sales order, I'm going to create a brand new sales order for, let's go for Tesco because they're a common. I've even got Tesco on my system. I have. I'm going to create some chicken. So again, I don't have to know all the information about the particular customer, the item or anything like that. I can just start typing it. Or if I wanted to, I could start typing Pecora there because the system has a little bit of intelligence about what's going to go on there. So I'm going to have some chicken Pecora and I'm going to have 100 of those. Okay. You can, if you wanted to, you can put the screen into taking large orders all at the same time mode or go back into more. We do have integrated EDI within the system, so we have over 100 different EDI providers, Tesco, Aldi, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, all those kind of things, all bring orders for forecast. You can bring forecast into the system. You can do invoices, credit notes, ASNs if you use the warehouse management element of the system, and credits can all go in and out of the system via the standard EDI interfaces. We also have lots of other stuff that's relevant here. So can I show any of that? I probably haven't prepared any of that, but if I just show you, we got reorder items. So reorder items is basically, these are the customer's favorite items. So you can almost have a reorder list here and say, I want 3 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them, 9 of them. So it pops up the customer's favorite items. So if they're doing lots of repeat orders, again, if you do an EDI, not relevant. We can also have restricted lists. So this is a Tesco branded product. So you can't sell it to Morrison's, because I know that does happen occasionally. You accidentally ship something to the wrong customer with the wrong packaging on. So the system will restrict you doing that either at the sales order level and also at the shipment level. So you can't ship a non-Tesco branded item to anyone other than Tesco, if that makes sense. And we also have things like what we used to call and shipment days, which basically this customer places an order on a Tuesday for a Thursday delivery. We also have advanced transport built into the system, so you can have milk runs. So if you've got your own vehicle fleet, the system can plan what drops you're going to do in what order. We then link to a product called Podfiber for final mile delivery, where you can do customer signatures on the documents. It will tell the customer that the driver's 10 minutes away, all that kind of stuff that extends what you're going to do here. Again, only relevant if you have your own fleet. If you just use third party, the system will produce all the orders ready for the third parties to collect them. If you do have integration to website, it will also group all those together ready for what we call a shipping agent integration. So if you're doing delivery via the Royal Mail or the post office, DHL, UPS or anything like that, it'll actually manage all the printing labels and things like that. But again, not going to go into that any more than just talking about what we can do today. Right, going back to my sales order. So my sales order here is going to create a demand on the system for 100 of these chicken pakoras on this particular date here. If I release this order, it's probably going to complain because Tesco's overdue. So it's gone on now, and the order's been put on credit hold because Tesco are a bad payer in this particular instance. So I'm going to go into my credit control, and I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to release this document. Okay, so normally you wouldn't do this, but I'm just going to release the document. So the credit will actually vanish, and if I click release again, the system should update it to say this order's now been released. So what would normally happen is we've got some advanced credit control built into the system where you can actually look at their credit limit, their late payments and things like that, and you can put customers on hold, you can put individual orders on hold, you can put shipments on hold based upon these different parameters you set. Or someone like Tesco can say, well, just always ship them there. And we're not going to worry about that particular one. So there's an advanced credit control that's built into the system. So what I've done now, I've released an order and I've created demand on the system. I'm now going to do a planning worksheet. So basically this is MRP to people. Might help if I spell it right, worksheet. This is MRP. And what this does basically, I'm just going to delete all this other stuff that's in here which we don't need. Delete all those. What this does basically, it looks at your demand. So demand comes in two guises generally: sales orders or contract sales orders, call-offs, and forecast. So what it will do with those demand, it will allow you to create a production plan and purchasing plans based upon what demand you have on your system. So if I calculate a regenerative plan, I can say over an MPS, master production schedule, what I need to make and when I need to make it, and MRP, what I need to buy and when I need to buy it, in order to tell me to fulfill my demand. Okay, so I can do it between different dates. I can also use a forecast. So inside the system, we also have the ability to create forecasts. I can edit my forecast. I can chuck it into Excel to create a forecast. We can send it around to the salespeople to create a forecast, bring it back in, and then do demand planning based upon forecast. Because most food companies don't make to order, they will make to a forecast, because by the time the order's in, they've got to have made it and ship it. So again, most companies in food industry ship to a forecast. I'm just going to create my, I'm going to run this process now, and what the system's going to do, it's going to run through and tell me what I should be making, and what I should be buying in order to make that new demand. Now, what it may do, because I've just added another order on there, it may say actually change a production order you've already got on the system that's going to be doing the same one to extend the quantity, because it may not have been launched yet. So there's all sorts of things it can do. It's going to complain about 4 items on my system. I'm not going to worry about those at the moment. So you can see here, it's got, the first column should be blank. Okay, the first column should always be blank, but because I've got some data that's in the past, you can see it's trying to do 2022 and 2023. It's going to complain about those. But anything that's not in the past, the system will make recommendations for you to say, I suggest you make a production order, an assembly order, or purchase orders to fulfill that demand. And these are the quantities was already on there. And this is the new quantity I want. And these are the dates we suggest you do it. Okay, so the system's going to make all sorts of suggestions for you. If there's anything in the first column, the system says, I don't know how to deal with that, so you're going to have to do it yourself. If there's not anything in the first column there, the system will allow you to do that. So if I wanted to, I can just go down and click OK and get those to make those all new, and click on carry out action messages. Every time there's a production suggestion, I can make a firm plan production order, a plan production order, or I can launch a production order. Now, the difference between them is if I make a plan production order, whenever I run MRP will clear down the old plan production orders and recreate a new one. So they're basically meant for, this is what I'm going to be doing over the next few months. I haven't cast it in stone yet, but I need to be able to start ordering my raw materials because some of them may have long lead times, but this is my rough plan. A firm plan production order is normally what I'm going to be doing over the next 2 weeks, and I don't really want it changing, so the system won't actually delete those. And a planned printed production order is basically launched on the shop floor. So it's like next week's worth of production or this week's production. Again, we don't have to go into detail there, but I'm just going to do these as firm plan production orders. An assembly order, I'm going to go and make those. And any purchasing decisions, I can either make a purchase order, I can send the purchase orders off directly after the suppliers, or I can move purchase orders to what's called a requisition worksheet, which is basically a buyer screen. I'm just going to do them as purchase orders at the moment, click OK, and off they go. Incidentally, the bottom one that's there, transfer orders, we haven't talked an awful lot about that at the moment, but Business Central has an advanced warehousing capability in it, especially with our clever WMS on top of there, where you can have different pushes and pulls of demand from different sites. For example, I may have a warehouse in Scotland that gets fulfilled from a production plant in Birmingham. So what we'll do, every time I need some demand in my warehouse in Scotland, it will create a transfer order to move it from Birmingham to Scotland. But Birmingham has a demand planning where it says, well, actually, every time I need demand in my Birmingham warehouse, create a production order for it. So it'll produce a production order to fulfill the warehouse in Birmingham, and then create a transfer to move it from Birmingham to Scotland. And you can do all this hub and spoke type fulfillment if you've got those kind of facilities within your organisation. Right, so I've created my MRP. I'm now going to look at my, I'm going to go back one. I'm going to look at my production plan. So this is Netronic. So this is a product we make in conjunction with a company called Netronic. So we do all the Business Central elements to this, and Netronic then do the production planning Gantt there. So what it is basically a production planning Gantt that allows you to visualize what's going on within your factory. So again, I haven't got any data loaded on here that's got an awful lot of data, but you can basically get the idea here. So you can see the items you have on your facility. I can double click on them to go and have a look at them to see what they're all about. I can change dates on them. I can go and look at components and see where they're going to go. If I go to today's date, so this is all stuff that's in the past, that's not very useful. So we go up to today's date here. We can see, we can drill into a week's worth of view here. Let's go into a little bit more. We can see all the different chicken pakora items you have, and I can move those around inside the system, drag and drop them. But basically what this is about is allowing you to drag and move jobs around to make them more relevant to what the computer doesn't know about. So the computer will do a best guess for how that's going to go through your facility. You can see here, it's going to cut the chicken, then it's going to go on to the next process, which is trimming the chicken and mixing it up, and then it's going to go into the final process. So it'll show you the route it's going to go through there. And I can do things like I can schedule the successes, I can tighten up the schedule, I can do things. There's a new feature now called minimize changeovers. It's got a different name to that, but basically we use it an awful lot with allergens. So I use the different colours with allergens here to say I'm going to schedule all my green ones, which are maybe celery allergen, and then I'm going to schedule all my red ones, which are maybe chili allergen, all together. So you're minimising your changeovers within the system. But basically this allows me to drag and drop and move all the features around. When I'm happy with my production plan that I have, I can close this down then and then update Business Central to say I want to, oops, not the update simulation, update, publish the simulation to Business Central. So you can have as many different what if scenarios as you want, viewing your data, but then when you're happy, you publish the data and we'll update the production orders and everything else within Business Central. Okay, I do have some slides that visualize it a little bit better if I can call it up. There we go. So it basically just shows you a little bit more detail, but you can also do all sorts of other things, like it will view your capacity, you can do breakdowns, you can schedule in extra shifts to actually minimize your capacity. So there's all sorts of things you can do inside there. So take a look at that. It's actually provided by a company called Netronic, really useful product there. Okay, I know I'm over time now, but I'm going to cover a few more things. So when we got a production plan, we can use our MES screens, so manufacturing execution system, to actually record what's going on the shop floor. So here's one I started earlier. So I started this just before the demo. So what this is going to do, I'll just go back onto a previous screen. So what this works is it's touch screens out on the shop floor that are capturing your actuals for the people on tablets. So what you do, you basically log into a work center. So maybe on the cutting area, maybe on the cooking area, or wherever it may be. It will then show you a list of all the jobs that you have to do in that work area. You pick the job you're going to work on. You click on next to say that's the one I'm going to launch. The system will then say, right, this is all the information about this particular item, and you customize these screens to show exactly what you want on the screens. You can do things like show my components, so what materials I've got to issue, and I can then issue materials. We can link to scales, so if you've got items there, you can weigh in and pull in the information from the scales. You can also have a look at information, so you have different notes for this particular production order. We can also view the actual material, the documents for this particular area. When the production order is running, it's capturing the actual cost of how long this is taking to run. And all the things I can do then, I can actually book scrap. So if we recorded how much scrap's going in there, we can record byproducts. So typically in the potato area, we can record the different gradings of them by the byproducts, or how much stone has come out of the bags, or all that kind of stuff as different byproducts. So you can have an anticipated byproduct and then an actual byproduct of how much has come in there. And you can sell byproducts, you can have them as free issue, wherever it may be inside there. But when I click stop now, the system's going to say, well, actually, why have you stopped? It's an end of shift. You can set up these different codes. My production order is complete, and it will then say, right, now I'm now going to go onto the setup, onto the actual run phase of my production order. So these are just touch screens that go out on the shop floor to capture the actuals that's going on the individual machines. Now, what we can also do is we've been deploying what's called Power Apps now. So this is what Power Apps look like. They can look like wherever you want to. So this is what Gressingham use at their different farms and what they're doing there. And again, these are not the actual screens. We've taken the actual screens and de-rig, yeah. So some people don't mind. But what are they doing there at their farms? They're recording how much new day-olds are going in, how much feed's going into all the different ducks, even though that's a chicken, how much weight's going in, what the average weight of the chickens are, or the ducks in this instance, what the mortality rate, what medicine's going in. So what they're doing is recording all this information here. So then when they're working out, well, Tesco have just ordered 1,000 1.6 kilogram ducks, they can look at all their, all the hundreds of barns they have with all their ducks in there to say, actually, I need a 2 kilogram duck to eviscerate to make a 1 kilogram finished product. So which are the ones that's nearest to 2 kilograms, so I'm not giving away as much product as I may want to. So then they'd analyze all the different barns and say, actually, let's call that barn there because they're only at 2.1 average weight, and therefore it's the best one for me to minimize my giveaway. Hopefully that will make sense to everyone in that kind of industry. Oh, got one production order there that's done there. Other things I'm just going to very quickly cover now. Any questions come up while I do this? I'm going to very quickly cover the quality. So we do have a whole quality app within Business Central, which allows us to do quality tests at different stages. So goods in, we can do like a 2-stage goods in one. So we have one quality check that the back door can do on the lorry, take 3 average temperature checks of the load. Is the driver clean? Is there any vermin infestation? And if it fails that one, it doesn't even get dropped off the lorry. If it does pass that one, it gets dropped off the lorry, but then goes through a different quality check where the quality team will come out and do some maybe lab work, send stuff off to labs or wherever it may be. And until those lab results come back, you can't physically use that in production. So we can do a positive release on it. And then when it's gone through the quality checks, it will be then released into production. We can have in production quality checks. We can have dispatch checks. We can have 1 every 500 checks. So you can set up whatever checks that you want to within the system. And the quality team can actually do that. So it looks like I've got none set up at all in this one here. So you can do different quality teams doing different quality checks at different stages. Anyone got any questions on that? I know it was a very, very high level check there. Anyone got anything else they want to ask me on anything I've shown? Because we are over by 10 minutes.
There's no questions currently, Des.
Oh, okay. So literally, I'm open to anyone there. The last thing I'll probably show is the traceability. So I'll just show you traceability. So all the information we put through the system. Oh, one thing I haven't done, I haven't showed you any of the warehouse management. So I'll show you traceability first. So we have within the system item tracing. So whenever you have a lot that you've produced, you can go into the lot traceability screen and it will show you all your lots that you've done. So I can then do a trace of that lot. And to show I've got that receipt in on a purchase receipt, I can go in and have a look at the entries that relate to that one there. And it will show me where that's gone in through the system. I can also then, if that has gone elsewhere, I can do trace opposite. And will actually show, well, where did that purchase receipt go? So it'll show maybe it went into that production order and that production order, and it was then shipped to that customer and it was shipped to that customer. So you got the full traceability within the system. I haven't got much in that one there, but I can go in at any point and show all that information. Okay, so that's the traceability that comes within the system. We also have the ability to do a lot more than standard traceability because we have lot attributes. So you can say, is this a red tractor certified product? Is this halal? Is it green? Wherever it may be. So all those certs that come in with the goods can actually be checked at goods in to make sure it conforms to wherever it is. And if your suppliers have lost their certs, then it will actually stop you ordering from suppliers and all that kind of stuff as well. And the last bit then, I'm going to talk about locations. So we do have full warehouse management within the system. If we go back to my screen here, where's it gone? There we go. This is the level of warehouse management we have in the system. So we have the ability to do receipts of goods in from production output, purchase receipts, sales returns or transfer returns can go into the warehouse. And this is per location. So you can have multiple locations within the system. There's no restriction. You can either do single drop into the warehouse, or you can drop them into the warehouse and then put them away into location bins with zones and stuff like that. We have cross dock, so if someone's coming in and going straight out, we can have the ability to do cross dock, so you don't put it away, just go and get it 10 minutes later. And the same for picking, so you can have single stage picks where you're picking directly onto a van or to a shipment, or you can have pick to a location and then consolidate from a location. And you can have production consumption, sales shipments, transfer shipments, or purchase returns. So we do have quite sophisticated ability to do that, and it's all done on handheld devices. So on a mobile device, you can do goods in, receipts, picks, put away, stock takes, inquiries, all that kind of stuff on a handheld device using barcodes to make things nice and quick and easy. So the last thing I'll do there, just show you the location. So again, you have multiple locations within the system. So each location can be set up differently. So maybe one of these is a third-party warehouse. So we're not worried about what locations are there, but you do need to know what batches they have at their third party. Or you can go into the particular warehouse itself and say, well, some of the information I have about this warehouse here. I can also draw the layout of this warehouse, so I can then do my optimized picking based upon a flow pick inside there. So you set out what the racks are, the zones are, and the system will then optimize the picking to know that way of doing it, and the system will know about weights of locations, how many pallets you can get in each location. You can do auto replenish, so you pull a pallet from a bulk location into a pick face and all that kind of stuff. So the system understands all that information as part of it, because most production companies also need warehousing as part of it. So I've talked a lot. I've talked quite quickly. I'm going to open it up for general questions now. So if anyone has any questions or wants me to show anything else, it's an open mic now. No one start singing now.
Thanks, Daz. No questions currently, but if anyone has anything, please let us know. The session will be recorded, just to remind everyone. I know a couple of people have trucked off, but so we'll send that to you following the event. But any questions, please let us know.
If there's no questions, we will let everyone go. And I thank you for your time listening to me prattle on. So I do appreciate it. It's hard to see the feedback from people as they go along.
Oh, we've got one second. We've got a question from Nathan. Nathan is just typing something, so just hang around for that.
I didn't cover any of the shipment management, so I was just looking at those as was going on.
Nathan's just asked if you can briefly show us the account section.
Oh, okay. The important bit. I don't really show the account stuff rough, but if you look in the finance, you have all the normal suspects there. You have your chart of accounts. You can set up as dynamic a chart of accounts as you want with totaling. So you've got posting areas, totals there.
Apologies. I think Daz has frozen. We've done well to keep him this long, but apologies for that, guys. Nathan, following this, we'll obviously send the recording to everyone, but we'll contact you to go over some of the finance management functionality, if that's okay. So unfortunately, it's had this technical hitch. No worries. Brilliant. Apologies again, guys, for the abrupt ending, but if anyone, please email either myself or Darren following this, and we'll endeavour to answer any questions. If anyone wants any follow-up meetings, we're happy to schedule those either on Teams or in person. Brilliant. I'll close it up there. Thank you very much.